in terms of uniformity. Otherwise, it will not work. Sue Justice, standing on the almost completed Demo 1. It's an article from Hansenberg's Gazette, way back in the day, Professor Searle with a model. No noise, no pollution, no heat, no vibration, no consumption of Earth's oxygen, no need to carry fuel, no runways, no launch pad. We are the tomorrow people, the decision makers, tomorrow's transportation today. This is today's transportation. This is real. This is done. This is the P-11 flying in 1969. It was first flown in 1968. This has one of the really good control systems. Notice these flight cells here are open. You have 4 flight cell modes. Flight cell open, flight cell closed, flight cell open and locked, flight cell closed and locked. And Professor Searle's explaining to a young man from the press how it can stay there, just hang motionless against the wind. And 1968, this was the plan to develop such a vehicle for commercial use for deep space exploration. Who knows what the future may hold? It may still become reality, and it looks more and more like this is going to happen for all of us. This is the exciting reality that awaits us. You got to demand it, though. The P-11 is 10-foot diameter, 2 meters. Flying in Warminster, England, 1969. Mr. Searle expects to offer day trips to the moon, and he's serious. It's going to happen. Right now. I think the battery's dead on this thing. Whoops, there we go. Now, there's a photo of a P-11 taken from the P-12, about a half mile up in Warminster. Let's see. Go through these, I'm running out of time. There's a graphic by our graphics department. There's an IGV, Starship Ezekiel, Starship Explorer. And these are true starships. Since they have no inertia, anything attached to the SEG and the SEG at flight voltage, they will have no inertia. You keep putting a load on the SEG through a load cell, which is in each of these 64 flight cells. Now, you normally don't need anything in the body to open up, but the FAA says, well, you have to have a power out glide system in case the motor stops, in case the motor packs up. But it doesn't pack up, it doesn't stop. Keeps going. So these will control in a power out glide situation. When they're activated, the flight cells open up, flip 90 degrees to the plane of the body in the SEG, and fires through a solenoid a hard rubber pin at the SEG through a hole in the SEG housing. That causes the whole system to flip at 90 degrees. Oh, actually not 90 degrees, at about 7.5 degrees. The flight cells open up 90 degrees from 0 degrees. And if that is maintained, the craft will fly off rapidly in the direction of the tilt. It's the cold flame barrier and rim discharge pins. The load cell is directed to the rim discharge pins normally to put the craft in a superconducting state by putting a load on the atmosphere or the surrounding space. And the more load you put on it, on the SEG, the colder and faster it gets. And eventually at 4 Kelvin, the SEG and anything attached to it will lose all inertia and be repelled by the Earth. And because of that repulsion, under flight voltage, it can't crash. It gets close to a building or close to the ground, it just is repelled. And that's what the experiments show. Now, there is a film clip of the P-11 and Professor Searle first standing, then kneeling. That's about 10 foot, 2 meters diameter, flying behind him. Notice, first is tilted down. When the flight cells are opened up on this side, there's the flight cells, and then they're opened up on the other side, and the craft flies off in the other direction to maintain a stable hover behind Professor Searle. So that's about 6 frames shot in rapid succession. It's the closest thing we have to surviving films. BBC took reams and reams. BBC One, a film of the craft and the work of the Searle National Space Research Consortium, or SNSRC. And first in the 1990s, when interest reawakened in the work, they said, well, we want outrageous amounts of money for it. Now they won't even admit that they did films, and that insults a lot of people that remember these films that were broadcast on BBC One in England. And there's the P-11 behind Professor Searle, the sun shining through some open flight cells. Flying over the Golden Gate Bridge. So, also, if the flight cells are open, this section, or wherever the flight cells are open, reverses polarity. Normally, they're negative. They go positive. And as we know from electrodynamics, this will fly off if this is positive in this direction, while the rest of this is negative. That's subquantum kinetics and electrogravity. There's a non-returnable model with SEG inside. Back in the day, neodymium was very inexpensive, and all the other materials. Costs have risen dramatically, and every day that goes by, costs go up. There's the SEG. Professor Searle, the man who saved tomorrow, he's still alive, still working. You can't talk to Thomas Townsend Brown. You can't talk to Otis T. Carr. You can't talk to Nikola Tesla, but you can talk to Professor John Searle. He's in England right now, working very hard. Make sure we have this. Before, would you like to breathe this air and drink this water? Or would you like this? We can have it. Talk to me. Talk to Professor Searle. There's the SEG, your typical flying saucer. Form follows function. If you want to have a device that utilizes artificial gravity and electromagnetic fields for propulsion, this is the shape that's the easiest to make it work. And we see that again and again. There it is, in orbit around Mars. Now, because electrodynamic craft have no inertia, they're immune to the Einsteinian light barrier, and they fulfill all the requirements for the Alcubierre warp bubble. So, this is warp drive. This can easily exceed the speed of light. Professor Searle says it can go right up to the speed of light. But since you don't get heavier, and the craft doesn't get heavier, the faster it goes, it should be as immune to the speed of light as Chuck Yeager in October 1947 with his Bell X-1 rocket plane was immune to the speed of sound. Look at the equations, they look the same for exceeding the light barriers, exceeding the sound barrier. This is the gift to mankind from men like Nikola Tesla, who first came up with this concept over 100 years ago, and Otis T. Carr, and of course Professor John Searle, Mark Tumian. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all your work, all your hard work. There's the IGB logo, Searle Aerospace Inc. That's my domain. We're gonna have a better tomorrow for all right now. I'm gonna try to go fast. In loving memory of Nikola Tesla, Mark Tumian, James Howard, Mary Macaluso, BCC, all of the dearly departed advocates of human sustainability. Special thanks to Professor John R. Searle, my boss, Team Searle, Bradley Lockerman Films, SDKM, Ryan H., Kevin Balmer, Daniel and Erica Nunez, Jason, Mark Petrie, Tesla Science Foundation, AmericanAntiGravity.com, and you, the builders and supporters of this movement. Now, if we could go to the film. Might want to kill the lights. Excerpt from the John Searle Story DVD, which came out in 2009, Brad Lockerman Films. Go online, johnsearlestory.com, and you can order and download it. This is a 12-minute excerpt.
that converts the energy around you, that's everywhere, into useful energy, what we call electricity.
The generator is a magnetic device that is totally magnetic. It is its own prime mover. It will self-start and continue to run, and as far as we know, we can say never stop.
We have something here that needs to be investigated, and really that's my role. I am a technical investigator of the SCG.
The generator is approximately 2 foot in diameter by about 8 inches high, and it can be put in the home to power your home. It can be put in your automobile to power your automobile.
The government said they know about it, but they think it's a novelty.
Many of the third world countries have no means of generating electricity. These units could be put in there and power whole communities.
You really have to take a look at each individual component and function. And when you step back, you say, wow, this thing works. There's too much for it. There's too many facets involved not to be something viable.
I felt that the big generators at the power stations were a waste of money. Would present to us vast pollution problems in the future. So the whole idea was to get something simple, not difficult to produce, and produce electricity.
With a series of coils attached to it, you can supply a home or an automobile or any device you want that runs on electricity at any voltage or power that you require. This particular device actually emits electrons. It does so through an exchange from rare earth to lighter elements as it goes out. It's also amplified, and as it comes out you have a tremendous abundance of electrons which are actually pumping into the coils instead of just bumping them forward a notch as a conventional generator would do. The primary component is a rare earth, and it can be, although it can be any of the rare earths, the component that we use is neodymium. That's element number 60 on the periodic chart. And that unit puts out an excess of electrons for some reason, and it will also replenish them very easily.
While I've been playing with this, with equipment, I've uncovered a lot of things which I suspected but couldn't prove. Clearly, the magnetic field was completely different to the magnetic fields we knew of. We got fields that run